Hey there, my name is sjofors, and you know me as the Price Whisperer now. By now, weird name, of course, and it's always easier to find me using Google and my moniker, the Price Whisperer. You know, I may have told you this before, but I got the moniker because I I was simply called the Price Whisperer so many times that I eventually decided to adopt a moniker, and here I am, the Price Whisperer. Anyway, today I want to talk about customer segmentation and pricing. And most companies do some kind of customer segmentation. They sort of talk to their salespeople if they have salespeople, or they may look at their sales data and say, well, here we have whatever they know about their customers. Here we have a segment of the market that seem to be buying more than another segment. And that, of course, is good, because it means that you can focus your company towards a customer category that is more desirable than another customer category. But that's not enough, right? Because what's missing in that particular equation is what different customer categories are willing to pay. And it means that, yeah, you may have a customer category that is significant in size, which you want, of course. But it also may be a customer category that your data, your sales data and your data from salespeople lead you to a category that has a low willingness to pay, right? And if you focus on a customer category that has a low willingness to pay, it obviously means that you have to have low prices, right? and low prices leads to low profitability. It's funny how that works, right? And it's the profit that drives every company, right? If you, in the end of the day, if you don't have profits, eventually your investors are going to, they're not going to support the company anymore, and then you have to be profitable. If you happen to focus again on a customer category that is price sensitive, so you have to have low prices, you have low profits, and what that means is that you don't have the resource that you need to drive the business. You have the resource, possibly to continue the business as is, but you don't have the resource, or it's unlikely that you have enough resource so you can drive your company to that next level. That next level that every business owner, every CEO I know wants their company to go to, right? So what is the right way then of doing customer segmentation? Well, clearly doing what I just mentioned, talking to salespeople, looking at sales data that you may have is good, but it's not good enough. And really what you want to do is that you want to understand how different customer segments differ in their willingness to pay. And they always do, right? They always do. And if you don't know how segmentation affects willingness to pay, chances are that you're going to focus on the wrong segment, right? And that leads to low profitability. It leads possibly to you leaving money on the table that you don't want, and to measure willingness to pay, you do this willingness to pay research that we do in my company, and from that, it's very easy to assess what customer profile. Some people, this is funny. I've always thought about this as customer profiles or as customer segments, or in some cases as customer avatars. But just recently, I've heard in my conversations with clients that they call it avatars now. It used to be personas. And I guess that means that sort of the metaverse is coming into everyday speak in one way or another. But whatever you call them, it's a group of people that has similar reasons to why they want to buy, similar reasons to how much they are willing to pay for your product, and obviously if you can focus your marketing and your sales towards the customer profile that has the higher willingness to pay than another customer profile, it will support higher prices. Will support higher prices. It may be a smaller segment, right? I mean, let's say that you just as a thought experiment here. Let's say you have a product that is that cost you $100 to manufacture and to market with overhead and stuff like that, and maybe you find a large customer segment where you sell tens of thousands of those devices at $110. That's not a very good business. It's a business. You stay in business. That's okay. But maybe you find another segment from this willingness to pay research that are willing to pay $150 for the same product. It may be a smaller segment, but it's going to give you much higher profits, right? And what do you do with those profits? Well, you reinvest it in the company, of course, in most cases, and most of it, right? And you reinvest it to increase your competitiveness. You reinvest it in more product development. You reinvest it in defining more services. You're reinvesting it in more marketing. You're reinvesting it in more salespeople. You're even reinvesting it in hiring the best people, because now suddenly you can afford it. And what does all of that mean then? Well, it means that you have over time, with your higher profits, because you focus on a customer segment that supports higher prices, with your higher profits, you over time will be able to elevate your company to that next level. And that makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference for investors, and if you're the owner of the company, it should really be near and dear to your heart to understand which customer segment is the most desirable. Because once you've taken your company to that next level, by focusing on the right customer segment, the most desirable customer segment, the shareholder value, the valuation of the company will skyrocket, right? It will be more than double. It often increases with 3 to 5% times, right? Just by focusing on just by knowing the willingness to pay among different customer segments, and then focusing your sales and your marketing and your outreach and so forth on that customer segment that leads to and supports the highest willingness to pay. And it's not really that difficult. It makes sense to almost everybody that I speak to. You don't want to try to sell to a market of maybe millions when you don't have a product or a service that is appropriate for millions, right? So focusing on the customers, the most desirable customer segment, is always the right thing to do. But you have to know what the various customer segments are willing to pay. Otherwise it's just guesswork, right? And it's sort of funny, among companies say they are data driven, and many are in some areas of the company, but often when it comes to pricing, it's guessing, right? And guessing is not a particularly good. It's not a very very good or a very accurate data point to set prices and then use that for customer segmentation and so forth. So food for thought, I hope. So I want to thank you for your time. Hope this was interesting for you, and I'm looking forward to see you on the next episode of my video series. Thank you so much.